Welcome everybody to Red's Ramblings. Today I have with me Calvin of the Global Citizens podcast. Global CKtizens, but it's citizens. It looks weird. He's got a good story behind it. I'm sure we'll get to that. Originally from Indonesia, typically living in Singapore, but with everything going on, he's back home in Indonesia. Calvin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, thanks, Red. All right, so yeah, hi everyone. My name is Calvin, and if you want to know my surname, it's Wijaya. So my full name is Calvin Karniawan Wijaya. So yeah, earlier Red mentioned about my very funky podcast name. So yeah, the funny story behind that is that when I first started doing it, it is just called as it is Global Citizens. I mean, it's easy, right? Now, well, the thing is that nothing good in life comes in free. The thing is that I think my first ever TEDx speaker who came to my show, she's a really good friend of mine now. So at that time, there was a lot of people who reach out to me, they DM me, they text me. So to me, it's a sign, oh, okay, what I'm doing is working. People are starting to take notice of me. So, okay, I gotta keep going. And one day I was Googling some stuff, and then I found out that there's actually two organizations with the exact same name as my podcast. So one of them I think is a humanitarian aid, one of them is a newsletter. So okay, I was thinking, how can I keep my name and I don't get sued? And lo and behold, I noticed, hey, my name has a C in front and then there's a K. Okay, let's mix it around. So that is how the name of the show came about.
And explain your show a little bit.
All right. So yeah, my show focus on two things. First is to advocate a group called the Third Culture Kids, or the short form is a TCK. And the second is it actually has the same kind of purpose as Red's podcast, is that I actually want to show people what is it like living a global citizen's life, living an intercultural lifestyle. See, so just a little bit of detail. So third culture kids are children who are now adults, some of them, or mostly, are adults now who grow up outside of their passport countries. So like myself, I grew up in Singapore most of my life. I came back at that time, I thought, to Indonesia just for like a year worth of break because I was burned out by the work life. But well, Corona hit. So therefore, I'm stuck and I can't go back to my second home. And the thing is that I'm lucky enough actually in the sense that I've only experienced a culture outside of my home country, and Singapore itself is already a melting pot of culture, so at least you don't get that much confusion. The record on my show is that somebody has lived in 12 countries their entire life. I mean, can you imagine? Yeah, man. I mean, like, I recall she's in her 40s. I'm not gonna say the name.
Yeah.
You never mentioned of a woman's age, but I didn't say her name, so it's fine.
There you go.
The thing is that can you imagine like 12 years? Oh, sorry, like for 40 years of your life, you live in a different culture. Like how you are supposed to eat, how you are supposed to greet somebody. Those are two very, very different things, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, a certain gesture, which in one country, in one continent could be good things, in another could be something that is insensitive. So 12 countries, that's already confusion. I mean, on average, I know that there are people who are still in 4, 6. Even then, it's still something that is confusing in a sense.
Yeah.
And this profile has actually grown because now Third Culture Kids has been put under the umbrella of something called the Cross Culture Kids. So there will be kids who are biracial. Yeah. So maybe they're an American dad or an Asian mom, or well, many kinds of portfolios. I mean, in fact, in your own home country, you could be a domestic TCK. What I mean by that is, let's say you grow up in maybe Philadelphia, and then when you are like maybe around 16 maybe, or when you are really, really young, then you are moved to New York City or even to Los Angeles. These are two vastly different worlds of their own. So this is something that I want people to actually realize. It's because it's not an extended vacation. People have to change who they are, what they believe in, their perspective, their beliefs. And then suddenly they are in a new place whereby they are considered like an alien in a sense, which
Right.
at a young age, people can't really handle that well enough.
Right.
And even as an adult, we have issues with that.
Mhm.
So can you imagine if there are kids with it? So that is the main purpose of my own podcast, Global Citizens.
What got you started, and how long have you been doing that now?
All right. So in terms of promoting this intercultural thing, by now it's my second year.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
third year.
All
Third
right.
year. But for my podcast itself, it's 2 years. So what got me started is this. So when I came back, I have a lot of culture shock when I came home.
Okay.
See, Singapore, as I mentioned, is a melting pot of culture, and
Right.
because it is considered an international hub, like in a sense, people around the world regard Singapore as like the de facto leader of Southeast Asia. It's the standard bearer. So every single system there is optimum efficiency. It's always
Right.
spot on. It's always running. So when you came back to Indonesia, which is still a developing country,
Right.
it became a two very completely different kind of life.
For sure.
Let me tell you guys one funny story. So my first ever go-car ride. Go-car is something like our Uber. In
Yeah.
a sense, it's built in our own home country here. So my first ever go-car ride, the driver, within the first 5 minutes, or I think it was 5 minutes, but you know how like when in a situation whereby life passes you by kind of thing?
Yeah.
Then within the first 5 minutes, the guy can ask me, "Hi, how are you? Where do you live? Are you married? Have you eaten?" 5 minutes. I'll just let that sink in with you for a minute. 5 minutes. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You gonna send a bride to my house? I mean, come on, man. Even my mom doesn't ask me this kind of question. And even if she does, she has the right to do that. But
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And at that time, I didn't respond to it properly.
Right.
I kind of behaved poorly in a sense. It's because that was my first time riding it, and I'm like, I was tired, and I'm like, huh?
Oh, for
But
sure. Yeah.
Then I kind of like, can you please don't talk to me? In a sense, it was a little bit rude. I apologize if the guy watches this, but yeah, I'm really sorry about that. But it really was a big culture shock to me at that time. And it wasn't the only source of culture shock issue. So my last employment when I was in Singapore, I was working with a British man.
Okay.
So the thing with them is that, now don't get me mistaken, they are amazing people, and well, they are really fun to have when you are in a bar. However,
yep.
yeah, they're really fun. But the thing is that working with them can be a giant pain in the neck. The thing is because you don't know whether, the thing is they have such a dry sense of humor. They can be sarcastic. So it's like you'll be thinking, are you gonna fire me, or are you joking with me? Are you praising me? Which is a very rare case. So I'm like, what are you doing? I don't understand.
Right.
So yeah, that did not work out well. So at that time, a lot of stuff, and as I mentioned, I was already handling a cultural shock in my own home, because not only I have issues with outside people, I have issues inside the home. It's because my parents I grew up with most of my time without my parents. So, I mean, well, parents will always regard you as their kids, right?
Right.
You can't really change that. So, suddenly, it's like they are so used to a certain way, maybe raising my sisters, who are expatriates, but they grew up in Indonesia with my parents. So for them, it's like this is a way they know how to raise their kids, and it has worked. And well, all three of you came in a package, in a sense. You guys are siblings. But how come you're different from your siblings? It's like
Yeah.
Some things that you are good at, your sisters may not be completely good at. And like for example, driving, I suck at driving. I'm a terrible driver. I have no denial about that. I'm a terrible driver. But my sisters are prodigies at it. But there are certain things like maybe, let's say, presentation or something to do with a more humanities-based areas. I excelled in that, and my sisters
Right.
aren't. So my dad kind of got confused. It's like, okay, I have two kids. All three of them came from, well, the union between me and my wife,
Yeah.
and you guys are completely different. So how am I supposed to deal with it? And you mean, well, I'm an adult. I'm in my mid-20s, so everything that I know has been formed in a certain way. And well, it's not that I can't change, of course, but the thing is, it's not easy because when you're used to a certain kind of environment, and then suddenly, when I'm in that new environment and I got some consequences from it, only then, okay, I have to adjust my mindset.
Right.
But most of the time I survive. I'm in one piece, nothing wrong. So I'm thought, okay, maybe I thought you just overreact. But so there's too many cultural differences that at that time, as I mentioned, yeah. So I started doing intercultural stuff for 3 years now. So my first year is I actually was writing articles. Yeah.
Okay.
So I use pop cultural references and then
Yeah.
I associate it with my own personal life experiences with it. So some of the stuff that I've used is like, for example, the Black Panther storyline. I actually reflected how is it feels like about home, because that's the main theme of the movie, right? Or I've used the show Inside Out from Pixar, which is about the emotional creatures thingy. It's like the feeling why you need to understand the importance of sadness. So I use that element and I associate it with my own. So the main idea back then was that, okay, I want to make it into an ebook. The thing is that once I completed at least around 3/4 of the whole thing, I was looking at it, it's like, I don't like it. The flow doesn't seem to move in the right way. So, okay, so I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with this? And at that time, I was flying to Singapore anyways for a little break. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll think about it when I come back. Now, this is where another funny story happened. So at that time, I was attending a networking event. I was waiting for my best friend. He was working at that time. So I've got a few hours to kill, and the place is like just 2 blocks away. So, okay, there's a networking event nearby. I'm just gonna attend it first, and I can meet him later on. It's cool.
Right.
So, in that event, there's actually another kid who's a TCK. Yeah. And he apparently had the same idea with me. And well, I'm not gonna say he's a bad guy or anything, but he's just really outspoken. He's loud. He's really loud.
Yep.
And at that time, there was actually a lady who's an international speaker. She's a celebrity author and speaker. And she just acquired her second bestseller in Amazon. So that's really impressive, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, so she was the keynote speaker on that day. And when she was, well, people like to call it bragging, but I think it's just sharing her experience. I mean, yeah, she's there because she accomplished something, so she has the right to sell it.
Exactly.
And this guy was like, how do I get to your level? I've written 8 books, but you have only done 2 books and you're on stage. So I'm like, dude, you're being really rude to her.
Yeah.
So that was, but the thing is that it got me thinking, and if I do the same way as him, without much backing, without much marketing, without much knowledge, I might end up like him.
Yep.
That thing. Oh, funny enough, actually, the speaker actually ended up on my show. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. She ended up on my show later on, but at that time, when I came back to Indonesia, I actually met a friend. Because he's an expatriate, he worked in UAE for a number of years. I met him at the time a few days before he was flying off. So I showed him my articles at the time. When he was looking at it, it's like, this thing is only encompasses your experience from Singapore to Indonesia. What about other countries? You know that there's something called the parachute babies. There's the military brats, children who grow up in a military base in other countries, like Shaquille O'Neal, Ray Allen. Yeah, those guys. And there's a lot of other portfolios. You're not representing them. So when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that is true. So I got back to square one. And after that, I actually met a guy called Eric Fong. Eric Fong is actually an international speaker from Singapore. He's a friend of mine. So I actually asked him about it. It's like, how do you get started when you first started doing all of this? And he told me, well, I used Facebook Live at that time when I started doing it. And I told him, but at that time you don't even have like much Facebook contacts. So how do you get to your level now? Of course, it's not easy. He told me it took 10 years for him to get to an international stage. So after that, he told me, it's like, don't focus on getting viewers. Focus on getting a viewer who understand what you're saying.
Right.
What benefits from what you're saying. So if they hear you, they understand you, and they benefit from it, you've done your job. So I'm like, oh wow, that's like kind of like those scenes from the movie. It's so cool. So after that, okay, I changed its format. So I mean, it's tiring writing articles to edit it out, to keep researching it again and again. So okay, why don't I change it to a different style? So okay, so at that time, primarily I was just new at the TCK stuff. So at that time, I still don't know yet the full spectrum of it. So after a while, then I just started to get the ball rolling by actually inviting a friend that I met when I was in Singapore at a hostel. So yeah, I met him. Then he happened to be in Jakarta at that time because he was working. So I'm like, hey, you wanna come to my show? It was my first ever episode. I was recording it with a crappy laptop and with only, I think I spent around like $40 or something just to rent out a co-working space at that time. Even though I actually don't even have a space of my own. So yeah, the first one, it was super dark. It was super blurry. So I'm really surprised about it. But to me, it's just, I just need to get the ball rolling. So when that happened, I just keep finding people. I mean, I wanted to do it via Zoom, but because it wasn't at that time, because Zoom need to pay, right, for Facebook Live. So okay, I don't want to do that. So okay, let's just keep trying to do it. And well, the story goes, it just gets people to actually have third culture kids, people who have experienced this life, tell me, it's like, hey, you said something that I actually experienced. Wow. Hey, this is really interesting. And the portfolio of people has increased. I've had 6 TEDx speakers. I've had the person considered to be the mother of this community, who is also a TEDx speaker, Dr. Ruth Van Raken. I've had a guy who actually published a book for William Shatner, Mr. Ocean Reef. Yeah, there's like a lot of people who has experience with many celebrities. Then I'm like, wow, okay, this is working. And I also have provided platform for podcasters and even people who are, maybe they're doing something interesting, they're digital content creators, but the thing is that they haven't gotten their big break yet or anything. So yeah, that's the portfolio of people I've invited.
Yeah, I know. So you've been doing yours 2 to 3 years, you said. I'm coming up on a year.
Congrats.
In May, I want to say. You know, probably like a lot of people around the world, I kind of got into it once COVID kind of shut shit down, right?
Yeah.
You need something to do. But I've been thinking about it for a good while. And so I'm coming up on a year. And I remember once I started doing my cultural stuff, because when I first started, I was not thinking about talking to people from around the world. I got started, for me, it was, like I would listen to podcasts, and if they're having a discussion, probably anyone who listens to podcasts, you wish you could be there to say your piece. Like,
Yes,
well,
correct.
this is right, but you can't because they're over wherever. So I would listen to enough, and my wife listens to some. And I just remember texting her at work. I was like, sweetie, I'm thinking about start my own podcast. What do you think? And she basically said, yeah, that might be a good idea, because a lot of times I'd come home and I'd discuss what I heard with her. So it was
Yep.
probably a way for her to get rid of me for a minute. I don't know. But so I started it, and if you go listen to, I don't think I started my first cultural till like episode 16.
Yeah.
So I had a good amount, and it was just me like talking about current events or what happened that day, a lot of stuff like that, right? And then I think it was I was getting like a podcast block, or a writer's block equivalent for a podcast. Like, what do I do for this one? And I don't know if somebody gave me the idea of speaking with other countries, but I just put out through Facebook podcast guest connection groups and whatnot, anybody interested, and I was just amazed at the responses I was getting. I like,
Yeah.
you're from over, you want to talk to me? Like, I'm nobody. Like, but oh hell yeah, right? So I was excited just from that, and from there it's grown, and I've seen your stuff pop up throughout that. And I remember like looking at like you were saying, you were getting like CEOs and TEDx speakers, and I'm like, this guy's kind of doing similar to what I'm doing, but he's got like big name folk. He's got big name people. I'm like, I ain't on this man's level yet. Like, let me just stick around. I watched a few, and I was like, this guy's on a whole other level. And then you reached out to me, I think, the first time. I was like, oh, I know this guy. I've watched him. So that kind of excited me a good bit. But it's weird when you start off one way and then you find something else that just makes everything worth it,
Yeah.
because I know there have been times when I've been doing episodes or whatnot, and I'm like, why, or like if I'm taking a break, especially if I'm taking a break, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I could spend more time with my family and probably do better at work, more than likely be a little bit more productive, I'm sure. But then sometimes like I'll have an episode and I'll get done with it, and I was like, that shit was fun.
Yeah.
That you would learn something new, or whatever the case is. I'm like, that right there, that's why I'm gonna keep doing this regardless. And I mean, my wife supports me, so that's all I need right there in the end. And for me, it's just, I'm just having fun. Like, I like to talk to people from all over the place. I get, it's not a thing for everybody. Some people like to stay stuck in their ways and not branch out. That's not me. And if that's not what you're into, cool. Don't watch my show. I don't give a shit. I do this shit for me, man. But so you're in Indonesia. What is, when you first moved or swapped over to Singapore, what was the biggest? Because like you said, Indonesia, even when I looked at a few things for about an hour, and Indonesia definitely does seem like it's growing. You got a lot of religious temples all over the place. One, it's I didn't know it was that big. Like, it's like 17,000 plus islands, all into technically one nation. You have a shit ton of coastlines and a lot of shit. And then you go to Singapore, and it's like you were just saying, it's more modernized. It's growing very, very rapidly. So what was that big, like, oh shit, like, what the hell moment, Yeah.
I actually said this in another podcast before. So, see, in Singapore, like from your primary to secondary school, I mean, it's like from your elementary to, in a sense, the equivalent is the middle school.
Okay.
And well, because our middle school is like a combination of like 2 years, then after the next 2 years is our high school, in a sense. Because we have something called the streaming system. If I explain that, I'll need another episode, but that's another time.
Gotcha.
But the thing is that yeah. So at that time, when what I didn't know is that we have something called morning assembly. So in Indonesia back then, I already mentioned there's a term called domestic TCK. So I actually went to an international school when I was a kid.
Okay.
So yeah, in Indonesia. So well, my school itself is named after Mahatma Gandhi
All
in
right.
Indonesia. So we do have assembly, but it's at a really, it's like a very different rare times,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. So when I actually came to Singapore for the first time, I didn't know that there's something called morning assembly. So I was like, what am I doing here? I'm lost. I didn't know that my classmates were putting on a bag on like outside of the classroom. So I didn't even know where my classroom was at that time. So
Yeah.
that's one, but that's a minor thing. So I actually noticed like when I came into the classroom for the very first time because I was the new kid. And the thing is that I was 2 years older than my classmate by
Mhm.
right. It's because at that time, I want to take Chinese language from my mother
Yeah.
tongue. Yeah, we have to study a second language in Singapore. So at that time, well, yeah, you are the new kid, and well, you're older than people, I guess, because you can see that all of them look like a bunch of kiddies. And well, after a while, then I found out that actually there are some of them who is even older than me, or
Mhm.
same age as me, or maybe just a year younger than me. So they still look like me, but I didn't know it at that
Right.
time. So at that time, because the only thing that I actually managed to get to see is everybody's name because they have the class list where
Right.
that I actually get because I was sitting at the back. I was the new kid, right? So I need to put my name. So I thought, huh, all of these names does not sound like an Indonesian name at all. They all look Chinese.
Right.
So therefore, when I first introduced myself to my classmates, I called myself based on my Chinese name that I know,
Right.
which is Huang. In Mandarin, it means yellow. So yeah, that's my family name, but it's not in my birth certificate. It's not in my
Right.
legal name or anything. But I know it's my name because it's given by my grandpa. But I'm like, okay, I feel already out of place with all
Yeah.
the people here. And well, at the time living in Indonesia, my influence from foreign countries is like watching those old cartoon shows from like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeons and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, first off, I already noticed my house, the place that I live doesn't look like a cul-de-sac. So I'm like, where am I?
And then Nitty
That's
right
one.
there.
Yeah. So and then I'm like, okay, my name looks so out of place compared to everyone. So I lied to them. It's like, oh, my name is Calvin Huang. When I'm, it's actually my legal name. It's
Yeah.
right, but it's just that at that time I just want to find a way to fit in with
Right.
people, and I haven't got to talk with anybody. And I found out later on that like most of them are younger than me. So I'm like, okay, I'm already really demoralized about it. I'm already very worried about it. So okay, I need to find a way, something to make it seem like I'm not such an alien. And
Right.
well, I mean, you look at my surname, it's like, oh crap, it's actually like in Indonesia is the equivalent of Smith or Lee. But the thing
Okay.
is that well, it's not common there. So I'm like,
Yeah.
huh, how do I get along? How do I smoothen the process at that time? So
Yeah.
I just come up with my Chinese name, which is not in my birth certificate, and my legal name and my registration name. And my teacher at that time was like, she was looking at me and like, okay, this is Calvin Huang. But I think she's like, yeah, I know your name, bro.
Right. I
So
got a paper right here. It's not there.
yeah, it's not there. So yeah, she just introduced me that way. But like after a certain period of time, it's like okay, I managed to get along with the people there. So you know what? Okay, I'll just tell them what's my surname. It's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun first ever challenge in the new
yeah.
country.
I would definitely imagine as a kid, for sure, moving to a new country. You know, a new school's one thing. A whole new
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because as a kid, you want to feel accepted. You want friends. You want to be liked and
Yeah.
everything. And again, moving to a new school is one thing. A whole different country. That's
Yeah.
a whole different thing.
Yes.
So then, do you know Mandarin at this point now?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak as well. Let's say, well, if I speak to somebody who is a native Mandarin speaker, they
Right.
will at first say, "Oh, your Chinese is really good." But
Yeah.
after such a long conversation, I'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at the time."
Yeah.
In a sense, I'm able to converse with it a lot better now. But
Mhm.
the reason being is because since I'm back in Indonesia for 2 years, well, we've been working with my dad's client who is from China, my investor from China. So
Mhm.
I have to translate documents in Mandarin. So therefore, yeah, I need to learn how to improve it.
Right.
And well, thank goodness for something called Google Translate and all kinds of software that doesn't require me to check everything word by word to practice my Mandarin because I can just, okay, go ahead. And
Yep.
yeah, I mean, once it's out, I can check it and okay, yeah, it's fine. As long as what I write fits exactly that, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, I got you. Because the reason I ask is I know looking into both countries, like any country, you know, you
Yeah.
got a lot of different languages, a lot of different religions. Um, very clearly, you speak English.
Yeah.
Are there any other languages besides English and Mandarin that you know as well? Or is it just those
Bahasa
two?
Indonesia. Bahasa Indonesia. Indonesian. Yeah, I'm Indonesian, so yeah, I
Right.
kind of need to know how to speak it. And here's the funny part. I speak English a lot better than I speak Bahasa
Okay.
Indonesia. And here's the thing, like, so with my dad, I speak I speak Indonesian, and
Mhm.
sometimes I converse in Mandarin if I need to.
Yeah.
With my mom, I speak Indonesian. With my sisters, I have two of them. I speak English.
Right.
Once in a while, I may revert back to any of my other languages, but I'm much more comfortable speaking English. So, yeah, that's kind of like what happened when you transition. And
Yeah.
because when I think in my teenage years back then, my sisters was going for their master's degrees and stuff, and they're doing it in Singapore. So of course I was living with them, and we actually have housemates. So they were always wondering, is like, why do you guys always speak in English? You guys are all Indonesians. Why can't you speak
Right.
in English? Actually, it's not us. It's only him. It's because he is not comfortable speaking his own Indonesian. So
Right.
therefore, you have
You just do it.
use
Yeah,
English, and well, it actually gets the information a lot faster than when he's using other languages. So okay, let's just use that, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, we practice it in the end. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because I don't know any other languages, especially not proficient. Like if I hear certain words of Spanish, I'll understand it. German, I understand. I actually have a friend from Malaysia who I gotta get up with him at some point this month to go to my Mandarin lesson part two.
wow,
Um,
congrats.
so yeah, I'm trying because there's before it used to be like 5 languages, additional languages I wanted to learn: Mandarin, Japanese, Spanish, German, and Russian. Right, those are the 5 additional languages I wanted to learn. Since I started my podcast, I've done a lot of interviews with people from India, and over in India, a lot.
I saw it. I think the fella is named Ish, right?
Ishtak, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ishtak. I like him. He's cool shit. So a lot of them over there, you know, speak Hindi, and it's the second most spoken language in the world actually. So I was like,
Yep.
well, shit. Like I would love to go to India one day. Might as well
I've
try
been
and pick
there
up that
before.
one too. Really?
I've been there before. It's a lovely country,
Yeah.
But well, I think you won't have issue with this, but I grew up in tropical countries my entire life, and when I was in India, I was in Jaisalmer, Rajasthan. I think it was at the southern India.
Mhm.
So it was in around November or December at that time. So the climate is in the morning. It will be warm, but it's
Right.
not going to be humid, so it's still relaxing. But at night, it's freezing. It's
Yeah.
freezing, and it's in the desert. So that's the first time I actually entered a cold climate, and well, now as an adult, I hate cold climate. I really hope that if somehow I manage to move to a new country, it's not a cold climate. I can't stand it. I hate it.
I'm
In
with you
fact,
there. Yeah.
yeah. And in fact, like majority of the time, I wear a face mask. I think
Right.
it's kind of like foreshadows nowadays, since we can't go out without a face mask, right? So yeah, majority of the time when I was in India, since I didn't know what a lip balm was at that time, I didn't buy
Oh
it.
shit.
So
Oh
my lip was busted badly.
yeah.
Yeah, and ever since then, I need to remember to wear something to cover my mouth. And when I was in South Korea for a holiday at that
Okay.
time, yeah, I actually wear like a mask that like elongated all the way down to my neck, so
Yeah,
it kind of
gator
looked like a
neck.
sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Over
I'm
here they're
like,
called gator necks.
yeah, I think it's like one of the characters in South Park. I can't remember what's his name. He always covered
Kenny?
his full body with. Yeah, I think it was Kenny.
Yeah, that's kidding.
Yeah, he always covered his full body with that. So I kind of look like that most of the time. I don't like it.
so you're in Indonesia. Do you know about when you'll be able to go back to Singapore?
Not yet, not yet, brother. The thing is like, we are in an uncertain times nowadays.
Right.
I mean, what you're doing now is in fact really amazing in its own right. You see, the thing is that I mean, it's unfortunate with
Right.
pandemic. Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate. But if we look at a certain silver lining to it, is that, well, now people are forced to accept that the digital world is existed,
Definitely.
and this is the way to go. And it also now open up a whole kind of new unique opportunities to actually connect, to network, to actually interact, or even in fact, if you are by luck, you make a business deal with people from overseas. But to do that, you realize that there's a different kind of customs than what you're used to. Like, well, I mean, you yourself notice it, right? It's like, oh my God, there's like way different things that when I'm talking to different kind of people. So this is something that everybody got curious about. Everybody need to learn this. It's, well, you can still stick with your comfort zone. It's up to you. But the thing is that the reality of the world, because of the pandemic, it's evolving, it's growing.
Right.
So you need to know that there's a different kind of cultures, and well, if you don't adapt to it, you may succumb to it. I mean, last year when I was doing an emceeing for an organization that actually promotes business between Indonesia and Singapore, one of the keynote speaker actually told me, I've actually met a guy who will say he'd rather die than adapt his business online. Which
really,
I'm like, whoa. Well, you can keep doing that. And why I mentioned this is pertaining to your question is like, when do you know when I can come back to Singapore? Because we don't know. We don't have the specific timeline for this. It's reported worldwide nowadays that there's vaccine coming in, but the thing is that it's not even tested. We don't know how about it. We don't know the circumstances of it, how it will affect people.
Right.
So yeah, this became something that became a point of issue to think about. Let's say we can put it, yeah. But the thing is that I don't know about when can I travel, and therefore you have to learn to create a new kind. You need to adapt to a new kind of environment, and well, online is the safest way to do it.
Yeah, I know. Thankfully, at least on my end, me and my wife. Well, my wife works at a hospital, so she's been lucky enough to keep her job. I work at a plant, so I'm lucky enough to keep my job as well.
Please allow me to say thank you to your wife. Working in a hospital, she's the first frontliner, so thank you so much for that.
Yeah, she actually got her vaccine 2 days ago. I want to
Oh,
say
okay.
either yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh, that's
So
good. That's good.
I'm just waiting for her like to grow a third arm or some shit, you know.
Oh my god.
I'm waiting
Huh.
on a third arm or an extra nipple. Who knows? I don't know.
Okay. We might need to edit that out.
It's my show. I do what the fuck I want.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
it definitely is. It's one of those things, because you got, and it has to be a thing all over the world. Indonesia, Singapore, wherever you're at, you got those like mom and pop shops that, for no fault of
Yeah.
their own,
Yeah.
might not ever come back.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's the hard stuff. That's the hard stuff too, because it's not their fault, man. It's not their fault at all. Your whole life savings gone because of some shit that's out of your control.
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
hardest takeaway out of everything. But just like you said, a lot of like the big companies, especially like marketing or probably even banking and whatnot, they're realizing that, hey, I could just send these people home, give them a decent laptop, camera, whatever you know they need, and they can do it all from home. And so far I've seen a few articles come out, a few studies that show that production's actually up in a lot of those sectors because they're doing it from home on their own time, yada yada, not the stress of their boss breathing down their neck, for those TPS reports or,
Yeah.
or what have you. So it's going to be interesting to see how that world, that industry continues as the future goes. But we've been kind of getting off of like more just cultural shit. So
No
probably
worries, no worries.
I could probably say I'd like to have you on a second time to be more in depth of all that.
Yeah. I
But
think you
so-
know even a lot more than me, man. I mean, the last time I need to go through my computer to look for anything related to the culture of Indonesia and Singapore, it's when I was in elementary school. I need to do
Right.
my school project, and that's barely an hour into it. But yeah, I mean, that's the fun part about it. See, the thing is like, well, you and I can connect here now,
Mhm.
and it's not and well, I've never grown. You're in North Carolina, yeah?
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. My bad, my bad. So yeah, I mean, I've never been to South Carolina. I've never even been to the U.S. But the thing is here we are talking. We may not even grow up with the same kind of lifestyle, but what does it matter? And
Dude,
the fact
that
is,
right there. Yes, that right there. I've said it probably on 4 or 5 other shows now. That ever since I've started this, no matter what, at the end of it, I always come to find out when like I think of that episode and how to encompass it all is literally person can be like you're pretty much on the opposite side of the planet from me.
Yep.
Pretty much 100% opposite side of the planet from me. You had a drastically different upbringing than I did. Everyone else I've spoken to, different upbringing than I have. But yet there's always some sort of similarities you can find between everybody, no matter religion, upbringing, language, rich, poor, doesn't matter.
yeah,
There's always a similarity somewhere that you can find and connect with anybody. And that's some of the coolest fucking shit ever. I don't
Yeah,
care. That's some cool
and-
shit.
yeah, man. I mean, and all of it can't happen without technology. I mean, okay, this is an interesting thing. So, last year I have a group of young girls who are doing some research projects on on traditions in Singapore.
Okay.
Is it lost because of technology? So, I mean, at that time I just completed one interview for the day. Apparently they were watching the interview. So, is there any way that we actually can talk to you about it? So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about it. And they asked me, do you think that technology affected cultures and tradition? I'm like, no, it's not. Technology is just machined. It
Mhm.
doesn't do anything. It's just existed. Okay, you can say something like, okay, there's the rise of artificial intelligence or anything of that. But we are not at the point whereby they became like what we see in Terminator, right? They're
Right.
not yet there. It's still just available through laptops or any kind of gadgets like your phone.
Right.
And well, they are just a device that access it. And why those girls actually said that to me is because we've been seeing that there's such negativity online. Well, it's not up to the laptop. It's not up to the program.
Yeah.
It's not up to the system. It's the people.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, it's the people themselves.
Right.
These machines does not do anything unless we are giving it command. And
Yep.
well, it's not up to the machine. It's up to us as the people.
Yep.
If we approach it in a positive note, of course it will come up
Mhm.
positively. This is actually something that a lot of people may not know, in that with technological stuff, is that it enhances your feeling. If you approach something, let's say you want to you are when in your mind you already have in mind, let's say I want to sell something, I want to make sure I get your money in my pocket in order to me to make a profit. People can smell it on just by using, even because it's on a device, because it enhances your reaction.
Mm.
So this is something that people need to take note of. And well, earlier we mentioned is that backgrounds does not affect us.
Mm.
I've had a lot of interesting people on my show. I've had one of the guests that I am most proudest of is Miss Kathy Johnson. She's the president of Asia Professional Speakers Singapore. That was an organization I really idolized, and I got her before on my show. She grew up in North Carolina and Chicago, and she told me about her experience with racism itself.
Right.
And that was an episode that was really emotional to me. It's because,
Mhm.
well, there are certain things that has helped. Let's say for one more thing though. Recently there's something called the calling out culture. I think it's the PC culture. Is that a thing? Is that the
I've heard the call out culture. I'm more familiar with cancel culture, but I think they're kind of similar.
all right. Yeah, I guess so.
I
Yeah,
think
but-
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah. The thing is that it actually highlighted a lot of things in around the world that actually is actually the same as the kind of entertainment you have, like the kind of programming or the kind of stuff that you may have within your own culture.
Mhm.
And well, technology highlighted that, because the thing is this. Let's say with stereotypes, yeah. One of the thing that as a kid I don't really bother about it, I guess, but that's because I grew up mostly in Indonesia. I grew up in a loving, supportive, decent home. And
Right.
in Singapore, I'm a Chinese Indonesian, so I'm considered a majority there. But I've never been in a situation whereby I'm considered the minority.
Right.
And this is something that after you realize it, it's like, So they highlighted something interesting to me, is that why is every single Asian man that I see in a cinema is either a mathematical nerd, somehow everybody knows Kung Fu, which we all don't. By the way, we don't know Kung Fu, all of us at least. And somehow, some way, is like the representation has been completed by having an Asian women in a skimpy attire as the love interest. So this is something I keep asking: why is it has to be this way? Or even if we have something other than Kung Fu, it somehow have some dragon, mystic, legend power or something. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? We don't all have this kind of stuff, guys.
Right.
And the thing is that why can't you make it like, I don't know, a cool stereotype? I mean, you can do it like what you did with Pat Morita and Mr. Miyagi. That is
Right,
cool.
yeah.
Like showing an Asian can be a nurturing figure. That's cool. Why can't you do
Right.
that? That's the thing. And with regards to this kind of cancel culture, is like online has provided the platform for people to voice it out. Guys, this is not how our race looks like. It's not
Yeah.
the right thing. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff nowadays which is doing this in a right way. I guess if you want to call it, it's like
Right.
we don't want to like okay, like I don't know, maybe comic book characters. I've been seeing a lot of funny trends whereby notable superheroes are changed to a certain ethnic group. We don't want
Right.
that.
Yeah.
We don't want that. I mean, we grow up loving these guys too. We grow up watching them, maybe in our own dub language, but we
Right.
don't like that. Maybe some of them do, but to me, I personally don't. To me, is
Yeah.
I want to see these guys stay the way they are. Maybe you adapt it. I mean, nowadays there's a lot of reboots and stuff, but we want to see ourselves being treated as equally, maybe a certain level of prominence too, not to replace these guys. That's
Yeah.
not what we would have wanted.
Yeah. Not only that, speaking of the comic book
Yeah.
industry, that's kind of doing that a lot more. At times, it's forced. Like it's
Yeah.
not genuine. Like
Yeah.
you're pandering to a certain group of people for whatever reason. Like that's not a genuine reason to swap.
Exactly.
And that's it just comes off fake and like like no. Like if it's happened like with a few characters in the books back in the day. Like obviously we have Miles Morales as Spider-Man
Oh yeah, that's
and everything like that. That was done beautifully. That was done really well, and it's cool as shit. Everybody loves that character. But then there are
Yeah.
other characters. It's like no, like you're doing that just to make a group happy, or because you got the social warrior stuff going on. You want to make those people. That's fake though. Like you don't genuinely mean that. And
exactly.
that's that pandering shit. That's just. Yeah, it's not good.
That's-
But to go back to also, sorry, to what you were saying about, the machines and everything, and it's not like the computer giving you,
Yeah.
horrible news and whatnot. It's what you put into it. That's
Yeah.
true as shit. Because I know if you watch the Red Ish episode with me and Ish,
Yeah.
at the end of it, we talked about like if you're feeling down or some shit. You can look up fucking puppies and cats all day long, funny videos, and that's all it's going to show you because that's what you
course.
want to put in. But if you look up like what's happening in the Capitol building today or what's happening in some, where a war is happening today, that's what you're going to see. And if
Of
you
course.
continue to look into that, it's going to show you stuff that's similar. But if all you do is look up cat videos and puppies and, little cute baby videos, and you just do that for a while, that's all you're going to see is a whole bunch of cute shit and baby stuff. And hell, cute shit's fun as hell. Like, yeah, if I'm feeling down for whatever reason, or like I'll send my wife like a cat video, it's like, oh, there's a kitty cat,
Yeah.
It's fun sometimes, but it's just like you said, it's all what the individual puts out. It's not
Right.
like, oh, Facebook is just spreading hate. Like, no, you're looking for it. You're looking for that shit. That's what that is. It's all you. You can stop it if you want.
Correct. Yeah, that's the thing. Technology is just a device, guys. It's not controlling your life. It's not. Okay,
Right.
maybe there's a certain people like to say there's a conspiracy. Oh, Facebook is taking your data. Yet they do that for marketing to send advertisement. Because in the end of the day, because you look for those stuff.
Not
But they
only
sell it.
that, what the fuck does Facebook care about John Smith? His data, like in his home, living alone, eating ramen. Facebook don't give a shit about you and your actual fucking personal data. Nobody gives a fuck. What you got? Ain't nothing. You eating ramen every day. Shut up.
Just to take note, we have no issues against ramen. I love eating ramen.
Oh, my son loves it. My son loves ramen.
Oh, that's good, man. That's good.
But I know for me, for sure, whenever the world calms down and we're able to fly and travel and whatnot, I love, with all these countries I've spoken to now, like 30 plus countries altogether, I would love to be able to travel to these places, like travel to Singapore or Indonesia, whichever one you're at the time, and have you
Yep.
take me around the city. Because I was looking at some like the temples in Indonesia, some of the Buddhist. You have the world's biggest Buddhist
Yeah.
temple in Indonesia, and that looks amazing. And then in
Yeah,
Singapore,
Borobudur.
you have. Say that again.
I think it's Changi Borobudur. It's
Yeah,
top.
yeah, that sounds right. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it sounds
It's
right.
okay. No worries.
But there's a lot of temples over there that I would love to see because I like that ancient, like architecture and temples and whatnot. And Indonesia
Yeah.
has a crap ton of them. And Singapore, you have that one like 3 building, but it has that thing on top.
Marina Bay Sands.
So what?
Yeah, Marina Bay Sands. Is it like the 2 tower with a
Yeah.
ship-looking thing on
Yeah,
top?
yeah.
Yeah, it's at Marina Bay Sands. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
something.
there. I've been there like around 6, 7 times in my life in Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never entered it actually. It's too
Really?
expensive. For
Oh.
Yeah, it's expensive, but
Yeah, I
I've
don't think
taken photos there. I've taken
Exactly.
photos there.
Exactly. And like in Indonesia, you have that gateway to heaven, right?
Yeah,
That little
it's in
pillar.
Bali.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a friend who took a picture there, and oh man, it looks so good. And
Yeah.
like with India, I've spoken with every country. Like I'm talking to all these people and seeing all these, beautiful buildings that have been built and cool little museums. A lot of them have like really weird, funky museums and stuff like that. And I'm like, looking at them through a laptop screen is cool. It looks gorgeous. It looks amazing. You can watch videos and it sounds cool, like rainforests and the animals and whatnot. But I want to feel it.
Yeah,
I
man.
want to be there in person, smell the air, the different air,
Yeah.
and just experience that all around me. So hopefully, I need 2021. If you're listening and like you're able to pay attention to me this year of 2021, whatever this is, get better. I want to travel. I want to go. I
Yeah,
want to go
man.
places, man. I want to go visit Calvin in Singapore or Indonesia, wherever he's at, and visit like the food, eat the food, and see the Buddhist temple that he said that I'm not gonna attempt to butcher that name. My not happening. I need to do that. Talking is one thing. I need to step foot in these other countries one day. That's my long-term plan for this show. Like if I ever get to where I am monetized at some point or sponsors, it would be cool to finally like do an on the ground episode with somebody and have them walk me through it and just explore it in person with a family and everything. That's the plan. That's like the future long-term
That's
goal.
the dream, man. I
Right?
think that's
That
the
is,
dream, man. Like to get paid to travel. That's
Exactly.
the dream, man.
American Airlines, if you're watching and you want to sponsor me. What about so for you, what is your long-term goal? Do you have a long-term goal for your show,
Right.
for your podcast?
When I first started doing it, I want to be an international speaker. Yeah,
Right.
I want to get paid to be on
Right.
stage all around the world to actually promote whatever things at that time.
Mhm.
So at that time when I was started doing it is because the two things I saw was that people talk about sales or motivation.
Mhm.
And I was in sales, but I don't think I did as well as people would have wanted in order to be able to sell.
Yeah.
And well, I don't have time to motivate your ass. I myself have I have too much shit on my own. I grew up with my own identity crisis, dude.
Oh, I love that
So,
answer though.
I
Love
ain't got
that
time
answer.
to motivate you. You want to get motivated? Motivate your own ass. Look at a cat poster hanging on to it. It says, "Yeah, hang on there.
Yes.
Motivate your own ass." That's the thing. I can't motivate people because I'm like,
Love it.
why? I ain't got time to motivate you. I grew up not even having understand myself. So yeah, that's not. So at that time, like I mentioned in the earlier when we first started, is because, well, I want to be able to deliver something that people who are watching it really actually get the message. It's like you don't like there's this story about a lot of you that how it actually makes you into who you are. Earlier you mentioned about like seeing some cultures right in different places. These cultures actually form who we are.
Right.
That's the thing. Like for example, if you grow up understanding about loyalty as the utmost in a certain civilization, that became your own core. Maybe as you grow older, it there's a certain different fluidity. I mean, we grow up, yeah. But the thing is that it doesn't change. That's who it is going to be ingrained in who you are. And that's the thing. It's because like growing up within cultures, a lot of people got confused because a certain culture may not be accepted in their own household. Because like for example, I mean, if you have Asian American friends, you will notice is that a lot of them will when they hear about how your background is at home and what is happening at home. There's a show called Fresh Off the Boat. At that time, I didn't know it was really true or not, but it's like when the main character, which is based on an actual person, Eddie Huang, was saying about, I want an American lunch food, and what is happening at home is this being treated. The food is like packet with rice and stuff. That's actually not far off. Yeah, that's what I ate growing up in Indonesia at that time. And in Singapore at that time, at least I got allowance, so I get to eat canteen food. But it's at least I've seen people who actually bring their own home lunch, and it just looks that way.
Right.
So different culture and how I mean, whether you're 6, 16, or 60, you always want to adapt. You always want to make friends. You always want to be a part of something. You always look for it. And the thing is that when you grow up in different cultures, it makes it hard for you to be accepted by some people within that culture, or there even has a funny stuff whereby the people may look like you, but they may not be able to bond with you. So that was actually the main intention when I created my podcast. I want you to be able to hear your stories and how it has, and well, I mean, this is something that I can do at the later on, is because the profiles of my guests is different in their own rights. They are successful in their own rights. That to be able that they are able to tell you that I grow up with this thing and I succeed, and you can do to it. I've had Miss Lisa Klein. Lisa was a single mom at her when she was, I think she was 27 at that time, and she started a business from home, making hair clips for babies. And now she's running a tech industry. She's a sought-after business guru in Singapore. She travels like I think around 32 countries by now to teach in notable universities. And her second husband is a German, and her kids are biracial, which is Singaporeans, Malay, and Australian. So that created a whole new kind of unique culture. And the thing is that is in a sense when I had her on my show, she told me, this is the legacy I want my kids to. I hope people can see. It's because, well, not only now people can see that people within my shoes, it's not the end for you. You still have, there's still stories about it. I've had Tony Pietra Arjuna. Tony is actually an award-winning director in Malaysia. He grew up in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Boston, and that is actually what inspired his own movie-making career. It's because his recent movie Shadow Play is based on this issue of looking for identity. Because everywhere in the world, there's a certain stories that actually could be related to your story, and it could be translated to a different kind of medium
Oh
that
yeah.
never thought that it's possible. There's so many things. The late Kobe Bryant, God bless his soul. Kobe is a third culture kid. He grew up in Rieti, Italy, and his sense of exclusion is what created what we NBA fans sees as the Mamba mentality. Is because he grew up being an outsider. That actually created something that's unique on its own right.
No, yeah, definitely true. I know me for one. I'm 30 now. I haven't traveled outside the country, but again, that's the plan. And
Yep.
now that I have a son of my own, I want him to be able to experience everything I can give to him. You know, like
That's
if
good, man.
we take trips, I want him to see that, one, be proud of who you are
Yes.
always, but also never forget that there's more than just you out there.
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
right there, because that, at least from my point of view here in the States, we have a lot of that going on, where it's the America. Let's be honest, there's more than just America out there. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
You can be upset about whatever and all that kind of shit. I understand. Be proud of your people, your country. I was in the army. I fought for this country a little bit. I mean, I didn't go overseas or anything, but I love my country.
Yep.
But at the same time, I understand that my country's kind of messed up right now. I'm able to realize that. I'm able to put that on notice and be like, yo, we have the ability to be great, but we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do, because it's more than just us out there. You know, if we falter, what the hell's the world going to look like? You know, and even if we get back on top, that still doesn't mean we're the center of attention. You know, there's no reason for us to be everywhere all the time. Like, there are other countries out there that let them do their thing, man. Like, visit and have a good time, but don't be so self-centered all the time. A lot of people that are just incredibly self-centered, that aren't able to look at the bigger picture. And be proud of yourself, 100%. Take pride in what you do. If you, like that lady, if you wrote a book, you know, and it's an Amazon bestseller, shout that shit at the rooftops, man. You fucking wrote a book that's hell yeah. Like, I had an interview with a lady from Denmark who, you know, their culture over there in Scandinavian countries is kind of similar. They have it's like the Juntan laws. I'm probably saying that wrong, but basically it's like, if you do something that you're proud of, you're not allowed to say, hey, look what I did. You have to have other people acknowledge it. Like, look at what she did, or look at what or he did. But if you do it, it's looked down upon. I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'm from the most prideful country probably in the planet, sometimes for ignorant reasons. Like, we are very prideful people over here. And so if you were to tell somebody, you know, just because you did it don't mean you get to be proud of it. Fuck you. I did this shit, bitch. This is mine. You know, I'm gonna shout that shit and do it. Do it. But also realize it's not just you. There's more than just you out there. There's more than just even your people out there, your family out there. Focus on yourself and your friends and your family, definitely. But never forget that it's not just you. There are other people out here in the world.
Yeah, there's always two sides of a certain coin. Like, if you can point it out. The thing is this. I've had an experience before when I was eating in Indonesia at that time. So in Indonesia, one of its best quality is, in a sense, it's a double edge. It's because most of the people, at least the local Indonesian born, grow up in a rural area. So the people are very, very closely knit. They are very good people. But when they enter a metropolitan city, in a city area, well, this kind of closeness, you need to understand the difference between professionalism and when you are in personal relationship, right?
Right.
So there was once that I was actually having dinner here. So a friend of mine came. One of them is from Bali, and the other one is actually she grew up overseas. I think it's Germany, if I recall correctly. So there was once when we were eating, right? So we asked for the order, and it took like around 5 minutes for my food and the German-born lady's food to come. So okay, that's good, right?
Right.
But the other fella took him around 30 minutes, and his food has not yet arrived. So we asked, hey, where's my friend's food? We've waited for a while. All our food has come. They actually check it, and they say, oh, apparently there's no stock for this particular food that you order. And yeah, and they came up with something in the end, but it's not really well done. I mean, I think it was a beef shank that was ordered, and the beef was frozen. It's frozen. It's
Right.
something that will make Gordon Ramsay go crazy. So, I mean, my friend is from Bali, so he's local, but even Bali has its own culture because Bali is a lot more integrated with an expat community, so they kind of know a certain level of standards, I guess.
Right.
And in Jakarta, it's not because people tend to not understand that you can't bring an knitting kind of lifestyle that because of your closeness interact with your own people with a customer. And my friend was, of course, he has been on a conference for one whole day and he has not eaten. So can you imagine he already feels like crap and he
Right.
got a crappy service. Now why I mention this is because this is an area of culture that is universal, is that food is how people see your standard,
Right.
how the impression of a country. Now, if my friend is a Balinese, and he can even say, "Man, I'm disappointed." Can you imagine if he's somebody from another country, maybe in France, whereby the service is always up to standard,
Right.
and then this is his impression of your country, and then he'll be like, "Man, I'm disappointed." So that is a bad image on your
First
country.
impressions are everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
So this is a cult. Food actually is something that's unique. Is because it unites culture. Because different ways of eating, what you eat, what is presented on the table. In fact, there's actually studies whereby it says that if you follow your host's main dish, you are actually able to integrate with them better. So this is something
Makes sense.
that, yeah, this is something that needs to be taken note of because this is the first impression of your culture. And if your culture is not represented correctly, then it reflects badly. And imagine if that guy is willing to invest billions of dollars worth of money to whatever company you're doing, man. And this is his first impression of your country. Well, in a sense, you kind of lose
Right.
out. So this is something that is universally worth taking note of, I guess.
Oh no, for sure. I know, like when I speak, like I said, I've spoken to a few people from India now,
Yeah.
and just like Ish. It's just a Muslim. Anytime we get onto it, and Ish loves food. Like our next episode together is going to be based around food. But anytime, like I have to remember, you gotta leave pork out. Like, come on, you can't be talking like just out of respect. Because I eat it because it's not a thing that we don't do here, right? I'm not Muslim, so I eat it. But when I'm speaking with somebody who I know follows that, I have to remind myself every time, don't bring up pork, don't bring up this, I don't want to give off that disrespect. And anytime like I think I'm about to ask a question of a heated topic, I'm like, listen, I don't mean any disrespect. So if you do not want to answer, don't answer. You have to know, especially when you, like I said, when we're talking with people from other countries and other cultures, there's a line You need to be respectful of that line. And
Yeah.
especially if it's your first time, you got to make that good first impression. Anytime, even if it's
Absolutely.
just like me and you, or like that guy, if it's a potential business opportunity, you need to be respectful at all times for the first time and realize that, yo, this is the line. You don't cross that. You don't cross that line. And it's in that regard, especially if it's with a Muslim individual,
Yeah.
just don't bring it up, man. Just don't bring it up. Leave that shit when you go home. But when you're with that individual, speak with them, just nope.
Exactly.
Be aware and be respectful of their ways and their beliefs.
Yeah, that's good, man. Like what you said earlier, like people, you need to be proud of who you are, what you do, but you need to take note that there's others around you.
Mhm.
There's other things that's going on. Here's the thing: U.S. used to be a dream destination for a lot of people. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
I believe it.
And now the fact that we are seeing that, I mean, I created 2 tribute episodes during Black Lives Matter because after the George Floyd's episode, there's another one. I think Miss Breonna Taylor. I'm like, are you guys kidding me? It happened once. You need to repeat that again. Not to mention that when COVID started, there's a lot of xenophobia on the Asian community. I'm like, yeah, it was really heartbreaking to see that. And the thing is that it happened in a country that we who look at it from the outside perspective used to think that it's like the standard bearer of a nation.
Right.
And now I think former President Obama said it. It's like your reputation has been tarnished really badly internationally
I agree.
because of holding on to a certain beliefs that's outdated, that is not profitable in a sense for you guys. Because, yeah, I mean, Americans are not just a certain ethnicity, guys. You guys are the greatest part of why we from the outside look at it is because you guys became a beacon that at one point shows that actually people of all skins can succeed there. So
yeah,
the fact that it's happening now, it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't know when I have an idea of when I believe. I'm gonna say we started backtracking.
Yeah.
But like you were just saying, how this country was built, we were built off the backs of immigrants. We ourselves came from Europe, you know, like we're not the original folks of this land, you know. Not even get into what we did to the natives, but that story's out, everybody knows, and it's shitty. So we started literally as a nation of immigrants, and that's how we've grown. And somehow that's gotten lost. That love of bringing in people from everywhere, building off of everything, and making it your own, but still keeping your identity, has gotten lost. And I don't understand it, because that's literally how we got here. So I don't even know how it could have gotten lost, where the turn happened or whatnot. It makes no sense to me. It definitely sucks to see, you know, when you look out essentially my window and see this type of shit happening. You know, because, you know, you mentioned George Floyd and beyond. I live in the South. I grew up in the South. Now, I've never firsthand seen anything of that nature, but I have many firsthand accounts of very like upfront racism around me, and I've never been for that type of bullshit. So that shit fucking hurt, definitely, because it's like anytime it's always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you know, or 1 step forward, 2 steps, whatever the hell the phrase is. You know, so it's like any time we try to advance, something always holds us back. And like I said earlier, we're definitely hurting right now. Definitely, we're pretty broken, extremely divided as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long time, a few years, if not a decade or so, to rebuild and mend that divide. I hope it happens sooner than later, and I hope we get back to how we're supposed to be, acknowledging that we're here, but we're also here because of everybody else out there. This country we never would have been if it wasn't for people from Japan, Germany, South America, Africa, everywhere.
Italy.
Everywhere. Yeah. We probably have somebody from probably every single country in our country.
Yeah, I don't know whether you know it or not, but America is actually named after a guy called Amerigo Vespucci, who is an Italian.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I do know that our White House was, the architect for our White House was Irish, if I recall as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So, the most American building in America is built or was drafted by a non-American.
Yeah.
And you can go into a whole bunch of other shit as well. But Calvin, I want to thank you. I've enjoyed this. It didn't exactly go like more cultural speaking, but I would love, for that reason, I would like to have you on a second time, or even the third time, or fourth, fifth, whatever time.
All right.
But I think I enjoyed it. I think we got some good, definitely, we spoke on some true, more current stuff that probably needs to be said anyways, regardless of how we originally planned the show. So I'm glad to get some of that out. If there's anything else you would like to say, Calvin, the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Now, actually, I just want to thank you, actually. And I think that you actually said it in one of your earlier episodes, because you, as a white guy, you didn't know about all this, and now, and you even created a platform now to actually hear some people's perspective of it. So this is something that I really need to thank you, Red. It's because I mean, changes is not something snap. I mean, it's not like Thanos Infinity Gauntlet kind of thing. You don't just get changes or something. But the fact is that if there's people who is willing to do something, to just, even if it may not be some kind of fire starter, it can just be it's a tiny sparks. But it's something that it makes a giant impact. It's going to ripple. And I'm really thankful for you to be able to create something like this, and even saying something like what you said is because now you have people's perspective to actually hear what is the thing that you think, what is it that you feel about a certain impact that you can see in your own country, in their country. So I just want to say thank you for that. And for everyone who is watching this, please take care. It's 2021. We went for 1 year whereby somehow we are stuck at home. I think it's gonna be funny if we ever enter a sports stadium and then we'll be like, okay, how do I cheer? But but the thing is that, well, the pandemic is still not done. It's not just gonna end snap in 1 day or two. So please, people, take care of yourself. And like what Red's mindset is, you guys have to be proud of who you are, but realize there's other things outside of who you are.
Kyle, I think that's great. For anyone who's listening still at this point, I think we're an hour in. Check Calvin out, Global Citizens Podcast. Find that, I'm assuming, everywhere, right? Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Actually, it's on YouTube, my Facebook. You can find it at Calvin Carnion Wijaya, and nowadays I'm also streaming it on an Instagram on Replay. So that's my 3 main platform. All right. So you guys can reach out to me. You guys can find Global CKtizens. That's usually only me, since, like I said, I created that name so that people only know me.
Right. Well, all his stuff will be in the description below. Calvin, Global Citizens podcast. It's great to finally get to talk to you. I know me and you've been kind of going back and forth for a few months now. And again, I've been watching your stuff for a better part of last year. You're like, oh, this guy's talking to everybody. Didn't think I was ever worthy, but I'm glad we finally got this. Hopefully the first of many to come. You have yourself.
There's no such thing worthy or not worthy, man. I mean, friends are just people you haven't met yet.
There you go. Calvin, you have yourself a good night over there, sir. It's getting late for him. Everybody else, you guys take care.
Yeah. Bye.